It was a calm day in the galaxy. Peace had reigned for decades, and everyone thought war was a thing of the past. The major space powers had signed treaties and agreements that promised no more conflicts. The human race had just begun to rebuild, focusing on new technologies and exploration. They had expanded their colonies, but no one expected the attack that would change everything. Captain Sarah Drake sat in the command chair of the Unity, the largest human warship in the fleet. She stared out of the ship's massive viewing window, observing the swirling stars. It had been weeks since they had received any real news from the outer colonies. Silence was a sign that everything was peaceful, but that silence was about to be shattered. "Captain," the voice of her communications officer, Lieutenant Michael Zane, broke the quiet. "We're picking up something strange. A large fleet, moving fast. They've entered our sector." Sarah's calm expression turned serious. "What kind of fleet? Who are they?" Zane's fingers flew across his console, his eyes scanning the data. "Unknown, Captain. They're not from any race we've encountered before. And they're headed straight for Earth." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Earth, the cradle of humanity, the heart of everything. If someone wanted to strike the human race, they would target Earth first. "Alert the fleet," Sarah ordered. "Prepare for immediate defense. I want all systems online and all crews on high alert." The Unity wasn't the only warship in the human fleet, but it was the most advanced. It had the latest weapons, the best technology, and a crew that could handle anything. But no amount of technology could prepare them for what was coming. The fleet arrived just hours later. Dozens of massive warships, so large that they seemed to block out the stars. They were unlike anything the humans had ever seen before. The ships had sleek, metallic surfaces that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural glow. Some ships had weapons pointed directly at the human colonies, while others appeared to be scanning the nearby planets. Sarah stood in front of the command center's display, her eyes fixed on the enemy ships. "I need to know who they are. What do they want?" Zane's fingers flew across his keyboard. "I'm trying, Captain, but they're not responding to our hails. They're not showing any signs of communication at all. They're just waiting." Sarah clenched her jaw. A fleet of that size, entering human space without warning, could only mean one thing. They were here to conquer. "Let's make contact with Earth's command center. Get us a direct line," she ordered. Zane quickly established a connection. The face of General Richard Hayes appeared on the screen. He was a seasoned veteran of many conflicts, and his face was filled with concern. "Captain Drake, we've been tracking the fleet's movements. They've been avoiding all attempts at communication, and their weapons are primed. We believe they've come to invade." "Understood, General," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I'm preparing to defend Earth. We'll keep them away at all costs." General Hayes didn't seem convinced. "Be careful, Captain. We don't know what we're dealing with here. We may need to consider alternative options." Sarah didn't like the sound of that. Alternative options meant negotiating, surrendering, or even retreating. The human race had never been one to back down. "We won't surrender, General. I'll keep you updated. Unity out." The screen went black. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to come up with a strategy. The fleet was too large to engage head-on. She had to find a way to even the odds. "Commander Roberts," she said, turning to her tactical officer, "what are our options? We can't match them ship for ship." Commander Roberts looked at the readouts on his screen. "We could try a hit-and-run strategy, but they have too many ships. If we go in, we might be overwhelmed." "We don't have time to wait," Sarah said firmly. "They'll be over Earth within hours. We need to strike first." Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared. A massive beam of light shot across the void of space, and the first alien ship fired a warning shot. The beam narrowly missed the Unity, but it was clear that the message was meant to intimidate. The aliens weren't here for a peaceful exchange. "Fire at will," Sarah barked. The crew quickly scrambled into action, launching a barrage of missiles at the approaching fleet. The missiles exploded harmlessly against the alien ships, their shields holding strong. "Captain, they've activated their shields. Our weapons are ineffective," Roberts reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Damn it," Sarah muttered under her breath. "Prepare the phase cannon. We'll use our last resort." The Unity's phase cannon was a powerful weapon, capable of breaking through even the toughest defenses, but it required massive amounts of energy to fire, and using it could drain the ship's power for hours. They didn't have much time. If they couldn't stop the alien fleet now, Earth would be lost. Just as Sarah was about to give the order, the alien fleet moved forward, their ships aligning in a formation that seemed almost ritualistic. They were preparing something, but what? "We've got incoming," Zane shouted, his voice filled with alarm. "They're firing again." This time, the beam wasn't a warning. It was aimed directly at Earth's atmosphere. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The aliens weren't just here to attack. They were going to destroy everything. "Activate the shields. Full power to engines," Sarah ordered, but she knew it was too late. The beam hit Earth's atmosphere, sending a shockwave across the planet's surface. Buildings shook, cities crumbled, and the ground itself trembled. "Earth is under attack," Zane whispered, disbelief in his voice. Sarah looked out at the burning planet on the screen. The devastation was unimaginable. Earth's cities were disappearing under the alien assault. Humanity had no choice now but to fight back, if they could. The Unity wasn't ready for this kind of war. The human race wasn't prepared to face such overwhelming force. But Sarah knew one thing for certain. No matter how impossible it seemed, humanity would never surrender. They would never go down without a fight. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered. "We are not losing Earth today. We will make them regret underestimating us." The battle had only just begun, and the war no one had seen coming was about to change everything. The Unity was no stranger to conflict, but nothing had prepared Sarah Drake and her crew for the sheer scale of this attack. The alien fleet's sudden onslaught had thrown them into a battle for Earth's survival. As the massive beams from the enemy ships collided with the Earth's atmosphere, the human warship shook violently. Every system screamed in protest. Sarah's grip tightened on the armrest of her command chair, her eyes scanning the displays with a mixture of urgency and determination. "Captain, we've sustained significant damage to our outer hull," Commander Roberts reported, his voice tense as he monitored the status of the ship's systems. "Shields are holding for now, but we're not sure how long they'll last." "Patch up what you can, Roberts," Sarah replied, her tone steady, but her mind racing. "We need to keep moving." The Unity was heavily armored and designed for deep space combat, but the alien ships seemed to possess far superior technology. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had seen before. Each beam that hit the planet caused a ripple in the fabric of space itself, shattering buildings and sending shockwaves that echoed across the world. "Zane, keep trying to establish a direct communication link with them," Sarah said, though she doubted the aliens would respond. "Maybe we can reason with them before it's too late." Lieutenant Zane, the communications officer, his face tense with concentration, was already working on it. "Still nothing, Captain. They're not answering our hails. I'm running a deep scan of their signal patterns, but it's all encrypted. We need more time." There was no time. Every second was precious. Earth was already under siege. The human fleet, though strong, was vastly outnumbered. Sarah knew they couldn't rely solely on brute force. The enemy was too powerful. They had to find another way to fight back. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Sarah thought aloud, scanning the battlefield. "We can't go head-to-head with them, but we can use their own tactics against them." "Captain, we've just received an urgent transmission from General Hayes," Zane interrupted. "He says that Earth is experiencing widespread chaos. Cities are falling. The civilian defense forces have mobilized, but they're not holding up well." Sarah's heart sank as she imagined the devastation that was unfolding on the planet's surface. Earth, the birthplace of humanity, was crumbling under the alien assault. Yet, amid the fear and destruction, Sarah felt a surge of defiance. The human race was resilient. They had survived wars, famine, and the unknown. They would survive this. "Tell General Hayes to keep the civilian forces organized," Sarah said, her voice firm. "We'll handle the rest. We have one shot to stop this, and we're going to take it." Turning to her tactical officer, Sarah said, "Roberts, target their lead ship. If we can take down the command vessel, it might disrupt their entire fleet." Roberts nodded quickly, the tension clear on his face. "Aye, Captain. Locking onto the lead ship now. It's heavily shielded, but we have a chance if we fire at their weak points." The Unity's main cannon powered up, a deep hum vibrating through the ship as it prepared to fire. Sarah's breath caught as the weapon charged, its energy levels rising rapidly. She knew this was their only real weapon that had a chance of breaking through the enemy's defenses. "All hands, brace for impact," Sarah ordered. "Fire on my mark." "Ready, Captain," Roberts replied. The entire crew fell silent, waiting for the signal. Sarah's eyes narrowed, her mind focused on the alien warship, which loomed large and menacing in front of them. The enemy ship was enormous, its sleek, dark surface almost blending into the void of space. It was clear they weren't just invaders. They were conquerors, here to crush any resistance. And yet, Sarah could sense something more. They were not just after Earth. They were after humanity's future. They wanted to erase everything that the human race had worked for. "Fire," Sarah commanded, her voice cold with determination. A brilliant beam of energy shot from the Unity's main cannon, slicing through space with precision. The blast struck the alien ship dead center, shaking the very core of the enemy vessel. For a brief moment, Sarah thought they might have succeeded. But the enemy ship's shields flared back to life, absorbing the blast with ease. The ship didn't flinch. "Captain, their shields are still intact," Roberts said, his frustration clear. "We're going to need more firepower to break through." "Keep firing," Sarah barked. "We can't let up. The longer they're here, the more Earth will fall. We need to find their weak point. Look for any signs of vulnerability." As the Unity fired again and again, Sarah watched in disbelief. The aliens had technology that far outmatched their own. Their ships were designed to withstand everything humanity could throw at them. But there was still hope. Every time they hit the enemy ship, small flashes of damage appeared across its hull. There had to be a way in. They just needed to find it before Earth was lost. "Captain," Zane said, his voice sharp, "we've detected a strange energy signature on their flagship. It's not like anything we've seen before. It could be a power core or a weak spot. Can you get a lock on it?" Sarah asked, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Yes, Captain. We can target the weak point directly." "Do it," Sarah commanded, not giving it a second thought. "Take the shot." The Unity fired one more time, this time directly at the weak spot. The beam struck the enemy ship's energy core. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, the alien warship exploded in a violent burst of light. A shockwave rippled outward, sending smaller alien ships spiraling into chaos. "We did it," Roberts shouted, his voice full of disbelief. "We took down their flagship." But the victory was short-lived. The remaining enemy fleet seemed to move in perfect synchronization, as though they were still under the command of an unseen force. The destruction of their flagship didn't stop them. It only seemed to fuel their anger. "We've only made them angrier," Zane said grimly, his fingers typing rapidly on his console. "They're launching more attacks. This time, they're targeting Earth's surface directly. Prepare the ship for evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered. "We're not done yet. We've won this round, but the war is far from over. Get ready for the next wave." The battle was just beginning. The stakes had never been higher, and humanity was now in the fight of its life. But Sarah Drake and her crew were determined to protect Earth at all costs. They wouldn't go down without a fight. The Unity had barely finished recovering from the shockwave when the next wave of alien ships emerged from the darkness of space. Sarah Drake stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the viewport, watching as the enemy fleet swarmed toward Earth like a cloud of locusts. The destruction of their flagship had been a blow, but the aliens were far from defeated. In fact, their response had been swift and relentless. "Captain, they've regrouped faster than we anticipated," Commander Roberts reported, his voice tight with urgency. "Their numbers are growing. They're reinforcing their positions. This is no longer just about taking Earth. It's about eradicating humanity entirely." Sarah clenched her fists. "We can't let them. We have to fight back, no matter what it takes." The Unity had taken its first major victory in the battle, but that had only bought them a brief respite. The alien fleet was now more focused, more organized. They were no longer scattered or reacting in disarray. They were hunting. And Earth was their target. "Lieutenant Zane, any word from Earth's defense forces?" Sarah asked, trying to gather as much information as she could. "Have they made any progress?" Zane shook his head. "They're holding their own for now, but they're being overwhelmed. The alien ships are cutting through their defenses like a knife through butter. Most of our surface defenses have been destroyed. If we don't act fast, they'll invade the planet itself." The weight of the situation pressed down on Sarah. Earth's last hope lay in the hands of her crew aboard the Unity. She had to keep the alien fleet away long enough for Earth to regroup. But with every passing moment, the task became more daunting. "Roberts, increase speed," Sarah commanded. "Get us close enough to launch another strike. We need to hit them before they get a chance to land on the surface." The Unity surged forward, its engines roaring to life. Sarah could feel the ship hum beneath her feet as they pushed the engines to their limit. She knew that they couldn't keep this pace for long, but they had to act quickly. The human forces were outnumbered, and the alien fleet was ruthless. Time was their enemy. "Target locked on the lead fleet," Roberts reported. "We're ready to fire." Sarah nodded. "Take the shot." The main cannon of the Unity fired once more, its brilliant energy beams streaking across the void of space toward the alien fleet. The beam struck one of the smaller alien ships, exploding it in a violent flash. The explosion was a beacon of hope, a symbol that they could still fight back, but it was fleeting. The alien ships immediately began to maneuver, avoiding the fire and retaliating with a barrage of their own. The Unity rocked with the force of the alien weaponry, and Sarah's grip tightened as the ship shuddered. Alarms blared across the bridge. The hull was taking damage, and the shields were beginning to flicker. They couldn't afford another hit like that. "Damage report," Sarah ordered, her voice a mixture of command and concern. "Shields at 40%. Roberts responded, his fingers moving rapidly across the console. "We're not going to hold up much longer if they keep firing." "How long until we can fire again?" Sarah asked, her eyes scanning the tactical display. "At least 2 minutes," Roberts replied. "The main cannon needs time to recharge." 2 minutes. That was an eternity in a battle. Sarah knew they couldn't afford to wait that long. They had to find a way to buy themselves time, or they would lose everything. "Zane, any ideas?" Sarah turned to her communications officer. "Can we try something unconventional? Maybe we can create a diversion." Zane hesitated for a moment. Then his face lit up. "Actually, yes. We've been analyzing their communications and tracking their movements. I've detected a pattern. They seem to respond to certain frequencies. If we send out a burst of noise on their communication channels, we might disrupt their coordination." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she considered the possibility. If it worked, they might be able to delay the alien fleet long enough to get a better shot. It was risky, but it was a chance. And right now, a chance was all they had. "Do it," she ordered, "but make it quick." Zane's fingers flew over the controls, sending out a wave of electronic interference across the communication channels. The Unity's systems hummed in response as the signal pulsed through space, aimed directly at the alien fleet. At first, nothing happened. But then, the enemy ships seemed to falter. They slowed down, their movements less coordinated, as if they had lost communication with one another. Sarah held her breath, hoping that the gambit would work. "Yes," Zane shouted. "It's working. They're disoriented. We have a window." "Roberts, take the shot," Sarah yelled. Without hesitation, Roberts fired the main cannon. This time, the blast hit one of the larger alien ships directly. The ship's shields flickered and failed, and the explosion that followed sent a ripple through the alien fleet. The enemy fleet, still recovering from the disruption, faltered. The humans had finally found an opening. "Captain," Zane said, his voice still full of disbelief. "It worked. They're retreating. At least for now." Sarah allowed herself a brief sigh of relief, but her mind never stopped working. This was a victory, but it wasn't the end. They had forced the aliens to retreat, but the war was far from over. The alien fleet would return, and when they did, they would come back stronger. "We've only bought ourselves time," Sarah said, her voice steady. "But it's time we desperately need." The Unity hung in space, its hull battered and scarred from the brutal confrontation. But despite the damage, it remained operational. Sarah stood at the front of the command center, staring out at the void, the remnants of the alien fleet retreating into the darkness. "We've bought ourselves some time, but not much," Sarah muttered under her breath. "We need a plan, a real one." "Agreed," Roberts replied, his face drawn and tired. "The aliens are regrouping. They won't be down for long, and next time, they'll be ready." Sarah turned to face her crew. Their faces were weary, some stained with the sweat of the long battle, but their resolve was stronger than ever. The stakes had never been higher, and each one of them knew that. They had taken a hit, but humanity was far from defeated. "Everyone, listen up." Sarah's voice rang out in the command center, cutting through the tension. "We've just taken our first victory, but that was just the beginning. The aliens will be back, and when they come, it will come with everything they've got. We need to be ready." There was a moment of silence as everyone processed her words. Then, Commander Roberts stepped forward, his voice steady. "We know that we're outnumbered," he said, "but we also know that we have something they don't. We have our ingenuity, our determination, and our will to survive. The aliens may be technologically advanced, but they've underestimated us. They think we're weak, and we need to make them regret that." Sarah nodded. "Exactly. We've already shown them that we can fight back, but we need to do more. We need to hit them where it hurts." The crew began to murmur, their thoughts whirling as they prepared for the next phase of the war. Sarah knew they couldn't keep fighting on the defensive. They needed to take the fight to the aliens, on their terms. It was a risk, but it was the only way to win. "Here's the plan," Sarah said, raising her voice again to get their attention. "We're going to hit their supply lines. If we can disrupt their logistics, we can slow them down and force them into a retreat. We'll take the fight to their doorstep, where they least expect it." A series of nods passed through the crew. The idea was risky, but it was their best shot. "Lieutenant Zane, I need you to start analyzing their fleet patterns. Find their supply ships and identify any weak points in their defenses." Zane didn't hesitate. His fingers flew across the console as he pulled up a detailed map of the alien fleet's movements. "Got it, Captain. I'll have the data in a few minutes." "Roberts, get us to the edge of their territory," Sarah ordered. "We're going to hit them fast, hit them hard, and get out before they can retaliate. We don't have time for a prolonged engagement." Roberts acknowledged the order with a firm nod. "Understood, Captain. We'll move out immediately." The crew moved with purpose as the Unity powered up and began its journey toward the alien supply lines. Sarah knew this was a bold move, one that could make or break the war. But it was the only way to make the aliens understand that humanity wasn't just a victim. It was a force to be reckoned with. As the Unity cut through space, Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility that rested on her shoulders. Every decision she made could lead to victory or disaster. But she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't afford to hesitate. The aliens had underestimated humanity before, and they would make the same mistake again. "All systems online," Captain Roberts said, breaking her thoughts. "We're approaching the target area." "Ready, everyone?" Sarah asked, her voice calm but determined. "Ready," came the chorus of replies. "Then let's do this," Sarah said, her eyes narrowing as she stared ahead. For Earth. The Unity dropped out of hyperspace and into a quiet corner of the galaxy, right in the midst of the alien supply lines. The ships were vulnerable here, far from the main fleet and unprepared for an attack. "Target locked," Zane said, his voice tight with anticipation. "We've got multiple supply ships lined up. They won't see us coming." "Good," Sarah said. "Roberts, take the shot. Make it count." The Unity's weapons systems hummed as Roberts fired, launching a volley of missiles toward the closest supply ship. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, sending debris and wreckage scattering into space. The shockwave rippled outward, taking down 2 more ships in the process. The Unity moved quickly, launching a few more rounds, taking out key targets with precision. The aliens, caught off guard, scrambled to defend their supply lines. But the Unity was already on the move, pulling away at full speed, ready to outrun any retaliation. "We've done it," Zane called out. "Their supply lines are in chaos. They won't be able to regroup for a while." But just as the crew began to breathe a sigh of relief, alarms blared across the bridge. "Incoming," Roberts shouted, his voice tense. Sarah's heart raced as she looked at the tactical display. A massive fleet of alien warships was closing in fast. They had only just begun to strike, and the aliens were already responding. Their position was compromised. Now, they would have to fight their way out. "Brace for impact," Sarah yelled. The Unity rocked as enemy fire hit its shields, and the battle for Earth's survival took another deadly turn. The Unity was in a precarious position. Its shields flickered under the relentless barrage from the alien warships. Sarah gripped the edge of her command seat, her eyes scanning the tactical display. The enemy fleet had arrived far quicker than they anticipated, and they were now surrounded. "We need to get out of here now," Commander Roberts barked, his voice tight with urgency. Sarah shook her head. "We can't just run. We've made our move. We can't let them recover from it. We fight. We show them they can't push us around." "But Captain, we're outnumbered," Zane protested, his hands flying over the controls as he tried to plot an escape route. "There's no way we can hold them off for long." "We're not running," Sarah replied, her voice resolute. "We're going to turn the tables on them again. We've shown them that humanity can strike where it hurts. Now we need to show them that we can survive their worst." "All weapons ready, Captain," Roberts reported, though the grim expression on his face revealed his concern. Sarah took a deep breath and turned to the crew. "We've faced impossible odds before. This is no different. We know what we're up against, but we also know what we're capable of. The aliens thought they could just walk over us. It's time they learn otherwise." The crew was silent for a moment, the weight of the situation pressing down on them. Then, one by one, their expressions hardened. They had nothing left but their will to survive. "Let's do it," Zane said, nodding. Sarah gave the order, and the Unity suddenly surged forward, charging into the heart of the alien fleet. The enemy ships, though larger and more heavily armed, were not prepared for the speed and agility of the human warship. The Unity darted between enemy vessels, evading fire and retaliating with precise, well-placed strikes. "Focus on the larger ships," Sarah ordered. "We need to take out their command vessels." The Unity's weapon systems hummed to life as the crew unleashed a deadly barrage, targeting the alien warship's weak points. The enemy was no longer taking them lightly. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. "We've hit their command ship," Zane shouted, eyes wide with excitement. "It's going down." Sarah allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. "Good. Let's keep the pressure on." But just as the crew thought they were gaining the upper hand, the tactical display flashed red. A new wave of alien ships appeared on the edge of the battle, larger and more heavily armed than anything they had faced before. "This isn't good," Roberts muttered under his breath. "They're sending in reinforcements." The Unity's shields, already battered from the earlier exchange, flickered again. The ship groaned under the strain, and Sarah knew that they couldn't keep this up for much longer. But there was one last card to play. "Zane, I need you to activate the special weapon," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the growing danger. Zane hesitated, his eyes locking with hers. "Are you sure, Captain? This is a risky move." "It's our only shot," Sarah said, her gaze unwavering. "Do it." Zane quickly initiated the sequence, and a low hum filled the command center. The Unity's main cannon powered up, glowing a bright, threatening blue. Sarah watched the alien fleet advance, their ships closing in for the kill. "Ready to fire on my mark," Zane said, his fingers hovering over the controls. "Mark," Sarah shouted. The Unity's main cannon fired with an ear-splitting roar, sending a massive beam of energy streaking across space. The beam struck one of the approaching alien warships, causing a massive explosion that rippled through the enemy fleet. Ships around it were caught in the shockwave, and several exploded in fiery bursts. "Direct hit," Zane exclaimed, a look of disbelief crossing his face. Sarah didn't have time to celebrate. The battle was far from over, and the reinforcements were still closing in fast. "Keep firing, Zane," she yelled. "We need to make every shot count." The crew poured every ounce of energy they had into the fight. The Unity's weapon systems fired relentlessly, blasting through enemy ships and leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. But the alien forces were vast, and the fight was taking its toll. "We're running low on ammunition," Roberts reported, his voice strained. "We can't keep this up much longer." "Then we make our last stand," Sarah said, her voice unwavering. "This is it. We either win here or we go down fighting." The battle raged on, the crew of the Unity giving everything they had. But despite their bravery and skill, the numbers were against them. The aliens were closing in from all sides, and there were only so many weapons they could fire. Then, just as it seemed the end was inevitable, a massive explosion erupted on the edge of the battlefield. "What the hell was that?" Zane exclaimed. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized the source of the blast. It was another human fleet, one that had been waiting in the wings, ready to strike at the first sign of humanity's success. The cavalry had arrived. The Unity limped back to Earth, its hull scared and battered from the intense battle. The crew was exhausted, but their spirits were lifted by the knowledge that they had achieved something extraordinary. Humanity had proven, against all odds, that they could stand up to the alien invaders, and they had given the galaxy a lesson in what it meant to defy the impossible. Sarah stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewport. She had always believed in humanity's resilience, but now, standing on the edge of victory, she was struck by just how far they had come. The Unity had taken a beating, but they had shown the aliens that they were not to be underestimated. "Captain," Roberts said, his voice breaking through her thoughts, "we've received a transmission from Earth. They want to speak with you." "Put it through," Sarah replied, straightening up and focusing on the screen. A face appeared on the monitor. President Emily Hayes, the leader of the United Earth Coalition. Her expression was serious, but there was a flicker of relief in her eyes. "Captain Harris," President Hayes began, her voice strong, "we've been monitoring the battle. You and your crew have made history today. The galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again." "Thank you, President Hayes," Sarah replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. But the battle isn't over. The aliens are retreating now, but they'll regroup. We need to be ready for what comes next. President Hayes nodded. We know. The Earth Coalition has already begun preparing for the next phase. But for now, Captain, take pride in your victory. You've inspired us all. Humanity has finally shown the galaxy that we are not weak. We will not be enslaved, and we will fight to protect our home. Sarah felt a surge of pride, but also a sense of responsibility. The war was far from over, and the aliens would be back. But the victory they had just won was a message to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity would not be defeated. We won't rest, Sarah said, her voice firm. We'll prepare, and we'll strike when they least expect it. We're counting on you, Captain, President Hayes said. And the whole galaxy is watching. The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to the rest of the crew. The mood was somber but determined. They had won this battle, but there were more to come. All right, everyone, Sarah said, her voice carrying through the bridge. We've earned this moment, but the war is far from over. Let's get back to Earth, regroup, and get ready for what's next. This is our fight now, and we will finish it. The crew nodded, and for the first time in a long time, they felt the weight of their purpose. They had proven that humanity could fight. But now, they had to prepare for the next chapter. As the Unity made its way toward Earth, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far humanity had come. They were no longer the underdogs. They had shown that, when faced with impossible odds, they could adapt, innovate, and overcome. The aliens had underestimated them, and now the galaxy was learning a hard lesson. But the most important lesson was this: humanity would not go down without a fight. The Unity was not just a symbol of human strength, it was a promise that they would protect their home at all costs, no matter who stood in their way. Back on Earth, the leaders were already preparing for the next phase of the war. The human fleets were being reinforced, and plans were being made for a counteroffensive. Humanity had proven that they could hold their ground, and now they would strike back with everything they had. Sarah stood by the bridge's viewport, watching as Earth grew larger in the distance. She was tired, but there was no time to rest. The war was far from over, and the real battle was just beginning. "We've got this," she whispered to herself. "We've got this." As the Unity approached Earth's atmosphere, the crew braced for the unknown challenges ahead. They had faced impossible odds before, but they had come through stronger than ever. And now, the galaxy would have to reckon with the strength of humanity. The war was far from over, but with each victory, humanity's resolve grew stronger. And as long as there were soldiers like Sarah and her crew, the galaxy would never forget the day humanity turned the tables. The Unity made its final approach to Earth, the star-streaked skies swirling outside its windows as it cut through the darkness of space. Sarah stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the planet ahead. The weight of the responsibility she carried was immense, but it was not the first time she had felt this burden. She had carried it since the day the alien fleet had first set its sights on humanity. This time, however, it felt different. The battle they had fought and won had been only the beginning. The alien forces, although retreating, were regrouping, and they were not the type to accept defeat easily. Sarah knew the war was far from over, but there was something different about humanity's resolve this time. They had proven they could stand up to their would-be conquerors, and now they had to prepare for the final stand. "Captain," Lieutenant Roberts said, his voice breaking into Sarah's thoughts, "we've received word from the United Earth Coalition. They're ready to launch the counteroffensive. The new fleet is nearly assembled, and we have the element of surprise on our side." "Good," Sarah replied, her eyes narrowing. "We'll need every advantage we can get. Prepare the Unity for the final push. We'll be leading the charge." Roberts gave a nod of approval, his face a mask of determination. "Understood, Captain." The final preparations for Earth's counteroffensive were underway, and Sarah could feel the anticipation mounting. The people on Earth had been living under the shadow of war for months, And now, the time had come to take the fight to the enemy. But there was no mistaking the danger that lay ahead. The enemy forces were unlike anything humanity had faced before, highly advanced, and willing to do anything to claim victory. As the Unity entered Earth's atmosphere, Sarah received another communication from President Hayes. The president's face was stern, her brow furrowed with the same determination Sarah had seen in so many others over the past few days. "Captain," President Hayes began, her voice crackling slightly over the comms. "We've gathered the full fleet. The warships are ready for action, and the forces are ready for the final phase of our retaliation. Humanity has shown the galaxy that we will not be intimidated. The next step is to strike back and reclaim our freedom." Sarah nodded. "We've been waiting for this moment, President. The aliens won't expect what's coming. Our people are ready to fight." "They have underestimated you, Captain," Hayes continued. "They thought they could break us. But they were wrong. This war ends now." The transmission ended, and Sarah turned back to her crew. "Everyone, prepare for launch. We will lead the charge, and this time, we will finish what we started." As the Unity moved into position at the head of the newly assembled human fleet, Sarah could feel the energy around her shift. The tension was palpable, but there was also a quiet confidence. Humanity had been backed into a corner, but they had emerged stronger for it. The war they had been forced into had forged them into something new, something more than just survivors. They were fighters, warriors, and now they had the chance to take back their freedom. The alien fleet, now in full retreat, had no idea what awaited them. They were unprepared for the sheer force of will and determination that humanity was about to unleash. "Ready to engage," Lieutenant Roberts called out, his voice filled with anticipation. "Let's give them everything we've got," Sarah said, her voice steady with resolve. "For Earth, for humanity." As the Unity and the human fleet moved into position, the first wave of alien warships appeared on the horizon. But this time, it wasn't just one or two ships. This time, the alien fleet was massive. It stretched across the stars, a menacing sight that could have intimidated even the bravest of warriors. But Sarah and her crew weren't intimidated. They had fought before, and they would fight again. "We've got this," Sarah said under her breath, her fingers gripping the controls as the ship aligned itself for the first strike. "This time, it ends." The battle began, and the Unity was at the heart of it. Waves of firepower erupted from the ships, a deadly dance between human and alien technology. The Unity weaved between the blasts, dodging fire and returning with precision. The human fleet was coordinated and relentless, their ships working together as one, united in purpose. Sarah watched as the first alien ship fell, its mighty form reduced to debris in the blink of an eye. The sight filled her with a surge of pride. Humanity was fighting back, and they were doing it with everything they had. The Unity fired again, taking down another alien ship, its weaponry unmatched in the galaxy. It was humanity's moment to shine. But the battle was far from over. The alien forces were relentless, throwing everything they had at the human fleet. It was a war of attrition now, each side fighting not just for survival, but for supremacy. And the human forces had one thing the aliens did not: the fire of defiance in their hearts. The battle raged on for hours, but with each passing minute, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. The alien fleet began to falter, their ships falling one by one as the human fleet pushed forward, relentless in their pursuit of victory. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the alien forces began to retreat. It wasn't a complete victory just yet. There was still much to be done. But the tide had turned. Humanity had struck a blow that would echo throughout the galaxy. Sarah looked out at the stars once more, her heart swelling with pride. They had done it. They had changed the course of the war. The Unity had led the charge, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. "We won," Sarah whispered, the words barely audible as the Unity drifted through the wreckage of the battle. But as the ships turned back toward Earth, Sarah knew that the war was not truly over. There would be more battles, more challenges ahead. But humanity had proven something fundamental that day. They would never give up. They would never surrender. And as long as they had the will to fight, they would keep going until the galaxy knew what humanity was capable of.